Hello, everyone, and welcome to Montessori 101, a live show from Child of the Redwoods, all about the magic of Montessori. I'm Aubrey Hargis.
And I'm David Hargis. So whether you are watching us live, hello out there, we see all you, or maybe you're watching the replay, or you're just listening to the podcast version, we don't really care. We're just happy that you are with us. And if you want to learn more about our work, you can find us online at childoftheredwoods.com.
Yes. All right. Well, this episode is going to be about dinosaurs, but not really dinosaurs.
Kind of. Yeah.
So we're going to actually feature one of our activities from our the Constellation theme, Dinosaur, but we want to bring a little behind the scenes of Montessori out to you, because it's fun and all to do activities with our kids, but it actually really matters how they are presented to our children.
Yep.
And that to make sure that we are choosing the kinds of activities that is aligned with our child's development. All right. And we're going to talk about what that means. And we are going to specifically highlight one of the special characteristics of the primary child.
That's right.
Which is their sensitivity to order.
Yeah. This goes to Maria herself writes about this, that it's really not the materials or the lessons, or, as happy and proud as we are of the work that we do here, we know at the end of the day, what really matters is the philosophy and the theory. Mm-hmm. That is the heart of it. Maria herself is clear on that. Now, good materials, whether it's a pink tower or a parts card set or whatever, something you make yourself or something you purchase, a good material will reflect those qualities, the theory and the philosophy. But to really do Montessori, where you want to start and where you want to always kind of come back to is the philosophy, the theory, the approach. That's what Maria herself said, and it's what we really emphasize in our own work.
Yes, and also I answered some of these questions last night about our primary course, of wondering, like, what is it that is, why do we offer a foundation course in the first place? Why not just buy some Montessori manuals and just jump right into the activities?
Yeah, just get the album.
Why not do that? We ask, especially those of you who are considering our primary course, the sensitivity to order is actually something we really go pretty deeply into in that foundation course. And the reason is because it's just fine to hang out with your child and, while they pretend play and take them places and enjoy life with them and offer them fun activities. But the philosophy is really important to understand the why of what you're doing. And I think that is something that a lot of curriculums ignore. Totally. And in Montessori, it's actually central. Right. So this is a great episode for you if you're considering our primary course. This is a great episode as a reminder for those of you who have already taken our primary course, because really the sensitivity to order is most prominent in those young children under the age of 6. And this is a good time to remind you, if you are here with us live or listening in the recording, that our primary enrollment period is now. For the spring primary session for 2024.
That's right. Orientation is March 4th. So we're enrolling through then. Now, if you want to join after that, we can get you into the fall session. But if you're really wanting to get started with the Montessori method for your 2 to 5.5-year-old, and you don't want to wait till next fall, now's the time to join, because you'll be part of the 8-week live cohort that Aubrey will be leading starting in early March.
I see that Daniela is here. Hi, lovely to see you again.
From sunny Texas. Yes. Bring a little sunshine from my home state, Texas.
She actually joined us last night. I know you weren't here.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was a joy to see your face. And I hope you'll be joining us in the primary course as well.
Yeah. I'm going to stop for just a second. I found this over by the printer.
Yes.
And but it made me think about what we're talking about with this idea of the philosophy. It's a quote from C.S. Lewis, the author of Narnia and great thinker.
Yes.
He writes, I guess you were printing out some journal pages or something. Yeah. Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil. Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil. And I thought that is
wow.
Truer words were never spoken. And that,
also that just makes total sense with what we're talking about.
Exactly. Because he, however you want to take what he means, I certainly, it obviously has many, many, many facets, and it came to mind as we were thinking about the philosophy and why it's so important, because that's exactly it. Like, if you just have the stuff, then you're not like, it can produce an outcome. But if you don't have the intention, the mind, then that the product, wherever you're pointing ultimately, may not be in the direction you really want to go. So when we raise children with the Montessori mindset, we're really trying to prepare them for a future where they are creative, peace-oriented, focused on the common good, happy, filled with self-love and love for others, and in addition to all of those other academic things. So it's a very special philosophy. And that's just kind of a way of saying, if you're wanting to know more about that philosophy than what we cover in our YouTube lives, consider joining us for one of our special deep dive courses.
Yes. All right. So, Tracks and Relax. Lovely. Good afternoon to you. And Maggie says, I love the hearts.
Oh, great. Yes.
From last week. I know. And also, as it happens, if you did that activity, you'll be able to reuse those hearts possibly for the current activity that we're featuring today.
Because that's right. There is an overlap. So let's get into it.
Okay. So sensitive periods. Okay. So long ago, Maria Montessori discovered that there were these sensitive periods in children. And by period, we really just mean a stretch of time.
That's
so
right.
There's a period of time. And I think that we can think of all of life as this, our life experiences and our own development open up different opportunities for us to grow as people. And, I think that you can look back and you can think early childhood is an opportunity for growth. There were certain things happening in your brain and opportunities for you that no longer existed after you turned 6 and got older.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can think again, even just back in your own life, like the transition into adulthood probably offered a lot of new opportunities for growth as well.
Yep.
And Maria Montessori didn't specifically study adult education because she was so focused on the younger years, but she definitely recognized that learning is lifelong, that growth and change is lifelong, and that there are these periods of opportunities that open up where we become super interested and sensitive to certain environmental stimuli. And so for me, like what I'm thinking of most like right now is the time of life when I had a baby. Like my body had changed so much to support the baby. And after the birth, there was just this blossoming opportunity for growth. And the environmental stimuli was like our crying child, literally like the sense of responsibility that I now had that was different from the sense of responsibility that I had as an adult who had not just given birth.
That's right.
So it's not like these sensitivities are only part of early childhood and they just are gone. There's no more periods of growth. Like we continue to grow and evolve.
That's right.
But Maria Montessori noted that unlike adults, like I can vocalize that. I can say, hey, I can look back and tell you a period of growth in my life was when I was a brand new mom. This is a big period of new growth. We know now that we can see like brains do change during new parenthood. So those of you who have little kids, like this is a period you probably can vocalize about. If you think about it, you can say, hey, you know what? I'm growing in these ways.
For moms and dads. We sometimes think it's like, well, the
parents.
hormonal change for the mother, but the father too.
Father too. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I think we could say that for caregiver,
Yes,
so you don't have to be a biological parent in order to have these opportunities of growth that overcome your body and change the way you perceive the world.
That's why the world is healthier when we're surrounded by children.
It's
It's true.
does. But thinking about that period of time for myself, I can vocalize about it. I can talk about it. I can recognize it. I could write down, the changes in my perceptions and my feelings. And there have been many, many books written from the perspective of new parents about the feelings and the changes that have happened to them. But young children don't have that ability yet.
That's right.
To self-reflect and to vocalize what is going on. They're mysterious. And so Maria Montessori looked at these little beings and she was like, we know that the brain is changing and growing all the time. We know that, as adults, we feel these things coming, but what we have to do with little children is observe them. And we know through all of these amazing scientific studies about biological, the way life grows and develops from biologists, we know that all life goes through these growth changes, and something special happens to children because they behave differently than we do. They act differently. We used to think, I think she thought, like, people used to think that little children were just miniature versions of adults, who hadn't grown into their adult form yet. But Maria proposed this radical idea that actually children are different beings entirely. They're like aliens. She's like, she even called them that at one point. She was like, they're like aliens to us. Like they do weird things. They're drawn to do things that an adult would never do. I mean, when was the last time that you got up in the morning and you thought, I know what I want to do today. I'm going to pretend to be a fairy princess, and I'm going to put on all my dress up princess things and then imagine that I'm in a magical king. Like, when was the last time that happened?
Or even if we're adults and we do that, it doesn't feel natural somehow, right? But to a child,
we might be more like part of a play,
yes,
or it might be an intentional acting experience.
Yes, something. But to a child, it's completely natural.
It's so natural, yeah.
I mean, she did describe it. I mean, she sort of implied that they had a memory of the divine, and that's what transformed their being. So they were different than adults. They weren't just little adults.
Right, so that was an example of like fantasy or something, but we can think of a million different things. Like, when was the last time you woke up and you thought, "Ooh, I just really want to hammer something. I don't care what it is. I'm just gonna hammer nails into this thing, that feels purposeless until I am done hammering." Like, maybe I think that there are times when I wake up in the morning and I feel like dressing up like a princess, putting on my pretty clothes, and I want to twirl around in front of the mirror and see myself as beautiful and see my world as sparkly.
Right? You are beautiful.
That's why the Disney movies appeal, right? But that we consider as adults is like recapturing part of our childlike spirit.
Exactly.
Still lives within us. But children just follow this.
They don't have to recapture it. It's unstoppable.
Yes, it's unstoppable, and it's impossible for them to ignore, right? So she looked at these things, these actions that children just engaged with in their daily life, and she approached it with awe and wonder.
And instead of thinking it's purposelessness, they're just unable to control themselves, she used her understanding of psychology and behavioral development and said there's probably a purpose to what these actions are.
Yes.
And then from that became this discovery of, among other things, sensitive periods.
Yes. So these sensitive periods are lovely, and we could go into, talk for a lot longer about sensitive periods. I'm sure we've done other episodes about sensitive periods in the past.
I think so.
I know that there's a really fun video where I do a little demo of the Porthesia butterfly, and those of you who are just browsing on our YouTube channel or have a free 2 minutes. I think it's really, really short. Maybe it's even shorter than that. Go look that up, because that'll give you an insight into Maria Montessori's inspiration.
Yeah, it's a classic lesson.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely. So that's there for you when you're ready to go into that. So let's talk about order.
Yeah, because it's one of the sensitive periods, the sensitivity to order. And again, so the sensitive period is just like a period of receptiveness, and they generally fall within certain years, but every human is different. And so we always want to caution parents like, well, I have a 3-year-old and I'm not saying this yet. Doesn't mean there's anything necessarily wrong. It just means that children develop in different ways. If you ever have concern, you talk to your doctor, talk to someone else. But just as a caveat, like no two children are exactly the same. A period is a stretch of time that has a loose beginning and end.
I think you hit on a big misconception about the sensitivity to order. When we say the word that children have a sensitivity to order, we generally tend to think of children as disorganized, little disorderly beings, kind of running around like little tornadoes and very messy, right?
That's right.
And some children are not, some children are more orderly, in nature, or quieter in nature. And that's great too. But that's not really what we're talking about when we talk about a sensitivity to order.
That's right.
We're talking about something that is hidden inside the child that exists in every child, regardless of how messy they are.
I think it was called, it's about the Portetia butterfly. I can't remember the exact name, but I think the cover art has the butterfly on it.
Yeah. If you look up, I think if you go to our YouTube channel and you go and look under videos, it should appear if you scroll down a bit, because it's one of the, it's one of those. It was an older video, so those get categorized differently on YouTube. But yeah, if you type in sensitive periods too on YouTube, or sensitive periods Child of the Redwoods, it should pop up. Okay. Yeah. So. All right. So what we're actually talking about is the child's ability to notice when things are out of order, and the child's ability to kind of start to categorize their world and want to put things where they go. A classic example of this would be like a puzzle. Why do children like puzzles? Why are there so many puzzles that are appealing to families? It's because of that sensitivity to order.
They're super fun.
The instinct to take out a puzzle piece, and probably if you have a toddler, you already have puzzles at home. But this is an example of a very common material that is just ubiquitous to toddlerhood and early childhood, and later on as well.
Totally. I think a lot of adults like doing puzzles.
It directly appeals to the child's sense of
so order. There's a natural, I think for many of us, there's a natural love of order, and that's why doing puzzles and putting things in order or a line or orderliness or symmetry, in the natural world, you find symmetry everywhere. It's so appealing to us. It's just inside. So when there's a point at which the child becomes hyper aware, and it's not just that they realize that they just want to do it all the time. They want to make things orderly, or they want to think about things that are disorderly or not sequenced or something. So you see this emerge, especially like at what age do you feel like?
I think you see it as young as 6 months.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Really?
Yeah, I really do. I think, it really is like, it's a 0 to 6 age range sensitivity to order. I think you see it that young because, you've got this little baby, and, if you remember what 6-month-olds are like, they're not, like, maybe they're just starting to verbalize, or maybe they're crawling, maybe they're not, but they are just like zoning in on where you're putting your things. So you pick up, your coffee cup and you put it on the table. Like your baby is noticing where it is.
That's
and
That's good.
Especially the things that you keep in the same place all the time. A good example of this later on is like our phones. Like we don't think as adults, you might be carrying around your phone, but you'll notice sometime during toddlerhood, your child will start bringing your phone to you. And it's kind of an embarrassing moment. I don't know if anyone has had that embarrassing moment where you're like, oh, my child just brought my phone to me, and I had actually tried to tuck it away. I didn't know they were noticing that I had it. I guess I do have it on me a lot. But they may even like put it in your pocket. They're like, this is where it goes, mommy, right here in your pocket. And you're like, yeah.
Well, Maria has that great story about the shoes, right? Do you ever know that story? She puts can you tell that story real quick? It's a classic story about the shoes go on, where the shoes go, under the bed or on the bed.
Yeah. The child, I don't know. You know what? I can't tell it right now because we we've got to get into our 8 subjects.
Right. Well, it's a great story.
But I think it would take me another 10 minutes.
All right,
to tell.
we don't.
But yes, there is a lovely story, and if you join our primary course, remind me, and I will tell you that story.
It's a great story. It's an example of how Maria came to this conclusion about sensitive periods, which is awesome because she used observational science to discover this, and now we can use deeper, more sophisticated neurological science and study to prove that she was right. So even though she did not study adult development in the same way she studied, we now, because of the groundbreaking work that her and others did, we now look at all of life and say that there are these periods. Okay, so for a little one, especially like a primary age, so we're talking under 6. For us, the primary, we do the second half of primary is 2 to 5.5, so that's the years we would cover. Let's talk about how across the 8 core subject areas you might see or encourage or feed the sensitivity to order.
Okay, Maria Montessori integrated this concept of the sensitivity to order in every single lesson, pretty much. And so we're going to go through this pretty fast because I want to get on to the activity. But if you would open up that Constellation theme packet and go to our core subjects so they can see. Okay, you can find this on our website as well. Yep. Not sure exactly where.
It's on the website.
It's on the website. All right. If you go to the website, you will be able to see it. This is just our little circle of course subject areas that are covered in our courses at Child of the Redwoods. The primary course, as we talked about last night in last night's video, only has 8 of these. And that's only excluding grammar and geometry because those are actually considered special subjects for lower elementary.
And they're covered. So geometry would be covered in other areas in the primary years, but as a special focus, we would introduce it in the lower elementary.
Correct.
years.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and give you some examples of how the sensitivity to order is integrated into some of the Montessori materials and lessons. Right. So let's start with sensorial.
Yeah. So sensorial. I mean, I think the obvious one is the pink tower, which I think we have back here somewhere. But yeah, here we are. Yeah. So the pink tower. If you have a pink tower, and we're actually going to show you a modification of the pink tower type activity at the end of this lesson. But yeah, the pink tower is an example of sensitivity to order as expressed through sensorial learning. How about
and the reason for that is because
it allows, it has a correct order, right? Because each of the cubes is perfectly square and gets a precise amount smaller from the very largest to the very smallest. It encourages the child to order them from largest to smallest, because if you misorder them, it won't quite work. Like it might be hard, it might not stand stable, it might fall over. And so it has built in to the material itself this correction. And
that's right. I noticed I was missing a block in the order. My sensitivity to order was so strong. I was like, I have to fix that right now.
That's right.
So yes, so it's it's a very visual sensitivity to order. It's pretty obvious, largest to smallest.
And that's why we would put it under sensorial. So because you're using the weight, you're using the visual acuity and so forth. How about practical life? That's the second of us. Can you think of an example?
Practical life, I think it's in basically every practical life activity. Is in anything that you can think of that has a sequence. So let's think of a classic practical life activity would be hand washing. So an example of your child's sensitivity to order would be the soap goes here, the lotion is here. First I pour the water into the basin. Next, I dip my hands in. Third, I reach for the soap. So the sequencing is part of that. Part of the child's natural need to order. So we're ordering things in sequence, and we're also ordering things visually. Like this is where this thing belongs. The soap goes here. Right.
That's right.
Physical science.
Well, I was thinking for physical science, I mean, there's a lot, but one that came to mind were the layers of the earth. Kind of in the same vein as the pink tower, although you can't touch the layers of the earth unless you have a model of it, which is fun, and you can make models of it pretty with clay and stuff. It's super fun.
Mhm.
But yes, that there's the core and the outer mantle and the crust and so forth,
Yes.
or even the order of planets, because in primary we study the solar system.
Mhm.
So the sequence or order of the planets in our own solar system would be an example of a sensitivity to order, and having a child lay those out.
Yes. All right. Life science, I can think of so many examples. In life science, we do a lot of categorizing and, and sorting, classifying things. And so just the act of classifying the world, like living things versus non-living things, or things that fly versus things that swim, mammals versus
non-mammalian
reptiles and fish, like categorizing our world is just like big time sensitivity to order.
Yeah, I'm remembering back in Constellation several years ago, we had a really great activity about eggs, of oviparous and non-oviparous or something like that. And there were 3 types. There were live birth, there was oviparous, like there was eggs that you carried there were the babies in your pouch. And like, that was a really fun activity.
I think it was ovoviviparous.
Yes, that's right. And so that's an example.
Oviparous, viviparous, and ovoviviparous.
That's
that
right.
blew our minds when we.
But that's a great example of where Montessori believes that children can reach for the stars academically. And so, but it's also an example of sensitivity to order, because you're talking about classifying and ordering into categories these different types of life.
Okay. As adults, we also categorize our world, our whole concept of the world, right? So we name our countries certain names, and we come together as tribes or as nations or countries or communities in some form or another. We're always naming ourselves. Any small group of people that gets together for any kind of committee, like we instinctively want to give ourselves a name, right? And so teaching the children the names of our communities around the world, how people identify as a community or a club or a grouping, is important. And that's why we place it in the category of humankind.
Because it's the human's desire to order the natural world.
And so this is basically what we call our geography. Our geography goes in humankind. It goes in physical science when we're talking about the Earth structure itself.
The Earth as a formed thing.
And we categorize geography in terms of how humans actually draw the world and map it and name things. That is like humankind. And so just the example of those continent puzzle maps is a huge and great example of the child's need for sensitivity to order being represented in the materials. We already talked about puzzles, and so why not a puzzle of the world?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. For art, which is another of and for art, we cover both visual art and music. And so I was thinking of the notes of a scale on a staff, which is something you would study in the primary.
Maybe not even notes on the staff. Maybe just notes that you hear.
Bum, I say do, re, mi, fa. So much. Or similar to hand washing, the procedure for using a tool. We did a lesson, a video a couple months ago about gluing and the procedure for gluing. And you take the brush and you dip it in. And so there's a procedure that you follow in order to glue. And so we do that a lot, especially with the younger kids in art.
Right.
And they really love that procedure.
In reading and writing, I'm thinking movable alphabet or alphabetizing. We don't teach alphabetizing first with kids, but probably every toddler can sing the alphabet song, at least in our current culture. And so that just shows you the child's desire to want to memorize things that are in order. Just memorizing the alphabet song is really order.
Completely.
Yeah.
And similar to that in the mathematics would be counting.
Yeah.
Or skip counting with beads. I know we have some beads back here. I don't know if you were going to show those, but
sure. So here's some golden beads. These are just 10 bars. But the child, I don't know if your child has ever played with, toy trains or cars, or even little I don't know, anything that's the same,
Yeah,
like
laying
little
pencils
dollhouse
end
dolls or
end
pencils or
yeah.
some kind of little manipulative
Yeah.
things, and put them all in a line. And that is actually what they do in math. Like we actually teach them, like, let's line all of these 10 bead bars up in a long row. And then skip count them 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And, we're teaching our child math, right? But we're also appealing to their sensitivity to order by, but allowing them and teaching them to line things up. They naturally want to line things up anyway.
That's right.
And so we're just giving them permission, or, explicit permission to enjoy that with our math curriculum.
Yeah, it's that really is the point. So we've gone through a bunch of examples. I bet you've already done some of these, or you're familiar with these, and you may not be thinking, "Oh, that's sensitivity to order," but it is. It's where this is how Maria's work is so revolutionary, and why that philosophy, going back to the theory of philosophy, is so important, because her discovery was that children go through this period of these sensitive periods. One is a sensitivity to order, and we can leverage that sensitivity to order, and through that gateway really open their minds to all these different academic and cultural subjects, like gluing, or working with mathematics, or using the movable alphabet, or classifying life on the earth or something, right? And the insatiable desire to order can really fuel that work. And it's just brilliant.
Yes. All right. So as an example, to kind of follow up with hearts activity from last week, where those were hearts. Are you reading
I was reading,
Daniela's
yes.
Comment?
Yeah,
You want to read that out loud?
Yes, my 5-year-old loves playing with cars, and I truly enjoy seeing him how he places them in order, straight lines, H, V, or D. If they get out of line, he carefully goes back and places it in place. Would this be a sensitivity order?
Yes, it would.
For sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
I remember doing that too. I loved planning in my cars. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember our kids doing that.
Yes.
As well.
So absolutely, that's what you're saying.
All right. So knowing that, as Montessorians, what we're doing is we're observing our children, noticing that they're particularly interested in putting things into order. And so then when we teach them, we're going to be thinking about that sensitivity to order and thinking about how we can integrate that into whatever it is we're learning about.
That's
so
right.
For our example, I'm going to hold up the dinosaur.
Sure. Did you want me to?
Just hold up the cover. Yeah.
Okay.
So in Constellation, we created a theme about dinosaurs. It's got some really great activities and materials in here for you and your child. And so there's actually several really cool things about dinosaurs, but one of those that really, I think a lot of children gravitate to are stegosauruses.
Yes.
Why are those so cool? Because they have those bony plates on the back, right? All children, if you got a little set of plastic dinosaurs, you probably got a stegosaurus in there, and your child probably was like, "Ooh, I want to touch and feel this one." Right. Those plates actually are sized incrementally, and it is very reminiscent of the Pink Tower.
Right. That's right.
Because you can look at the largest one would be like right in the center of the stegosaurus.
Yeah.
And then it would go from largest to smallest.
Yeah.
And then it would go from... Yeah, and that would go from largest to smallest the other way too.
That's right.
Yeah, and that makes us think about it. It makes me think about things that can be built opposite ways, like even a number line. Could be built from, we start with 0 and then we go up in scale. It would be an opposite example, right? And then we can also go down.
Right. Like if you went from 0 to
numbers.
10, and that's right.
Yeah.
Or I think in nature, a mountain.
A mountain, yes,
goes up and down, and because of the way it's formed, either it's carved out or pushed up by the plates.
Yes, but anyway, so knowing that children would be drawn to putting things into order, largest to smallest, or lining things up, it occurred to us when we created this dinosaur unit that it would be fun to order these plates, from a stegosaurus. And so our members some of them actually got out a big piece of art roll paper and drew themselves like a dinosaur shape, and then allow their children to, maybe they cut these out or maybe the child cut these out, either one, to order these plates. And so David actually designed these little stegosaurus plates, we printed some out so you can kind of see. Do you want to cut one out?
Yeah, I got a couple cut
Yeah.
already.
Oh, you're good. You got a couple cuts, so you can kind of see that.
Yeah.
Ooh, and those are those the same?
No,
those
they're
are
very slightly smaller.
very slightly smaller.
Now we printed these on white just because that was what was in the printer. Sorry, we printed these on white because that's was in the printer, but it'd be fun to print these on different colors.
Or you could just use your colored pencils.
Exactly.
I mean, that's usually what we do in Montessori is encourage children to decorate them in any way that they like. You could also decorate them before you cut them out.
That's right.
So it would be if you wanted to make your life a little easier, you could watercolor them. I love watercoloring.
Yeah.
So I recommend that often. We printed this. We just had our really thin paper in our printer. But if I were going to do this with a child, I'd probably make them a little bit sturdier.
Yeah, we use that for the booklet itself. So
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little stiffer, easier to manipulate.
If you can, you don't have to. But just taking any kind of shape that is, we have this example of like the pink tower as squares. We often give children like squares or cups, like measuring cups to put into order.
Yep.
So the challenge I would like to propose to anyone watching this live video is to use a different shape to put things into order.
You mean like a stegosaurus plate?
I mean like a stegosaurus plate, yeah, or a heart.
Yes. Just a good example. We talked about that last time.
Yes.
If you grab the freebie that we in the video from last time, we showed you how to cut out the hearts, and right, exactly, it's a perfect example of a sequential.
Yeah, and the hearts are really easy to draw. And cut out in varying sizes, and you could definitely use that template that we gave out to our newsletter subscribers to make those little hearts. Just don't cut out the middle part, just cut out the outside part.
That's right.
It would also be really fun to do it on a big scale.
Yes.
So we talked about art roll paper. How fun would it be to do a heart activity? You could do it with plates if you want, but how fun and easy would it be to get art roll paper, just big roll of, we used to call butcher paper, right?
Yeah.
Now it's called art roll paper. And you're going to fold it in half, and then you're going to draw the biggest heart that you can, cut that out, fold another piece, draw a slightly smaller heart, and then keep going. You could do that until you've got like 20,
well, this activity, I think there's like 20 different,
gigantic to tiny,
Well, and this goes to something that we're for the lower L's, especially, they love big work.
I'm all excited. I want to do this.
So if you have a slightly older, 6, 7, 8-year-old and a primary, and you want to do something like this, big giant hearts or stegosaurus plates or whatever, will be really appealing to that lower L kid.
Oh my gosh, it'd be so fun to make like a giant dinosaur mural for your wall.
It would be
to make these giant plates.
That's right.
Oh, so fun. I wish our kids were little again sometimes.
Well, we'll just have to add it to Constellation.
I know. I could probably still co-opt our kids into doing a project with me. They really love art. But
the thing is that, to kind of tie this
past
back,
that sensitivity to order that is in the primary years, that's so fun.
That's right. So the thing is that what would be, just to kind of bring that back home though, is so in our example, we're giving an example of we wanted to have a theme on dinosaur. It could be a theme on anything that your child is interested in, and then thinking the child at this age has a sensitivity to order. What's it something within this theme? Like in our case, the Aubrey's came up with this idea of the stegosaurus plates that naturally get smaller or larger depending on which direction you're going. What's something from this theme that would lend itself to that sensitivity to order? And that's really kind of the key. And that's to go back to the beginning of the video, why the philosophy and theory are more important than the specific lessons themselves. I mean, there are core lessons for sure that you want to be aware of, but if you understand the how and the why, it really opens up your mind, and then you can use your creativity to start to think of like, what is it that I want to create to make that happen? All
right. So this is where we're going to wrap up here. Thank you all for coming. Those of you who joined us live, thank you to those of you who are listening to the recording. Remember, your challenge for this week, if you choose to take it, is to create something that your child can put into order from largest to smallest.
Something you might not normally have thought about.
Oh, it could be carrots from your fridge.
That's right.
That would be an easy one. Okay, like just go for it. And we would love to hear it. If you do the activity, come back and comment and let us know. All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you
everyone.
all.
We'll
if you're interested in going deeper, join the primary course.
Yes.
It's so fun. Love you.
Take care.